Am I the only one who's getting really sick of the Taken? Look, we get it. Oryx has come to avenge his son's death. He's taken a bunch of enemies. But that's all done now. We've killed him. And yet we still see the Taken everywhere throughout the game. Every planet. Every enemy type. I saw a few articles on the forums recently asking why the Taken is still around given that we've killed their god. And while it makes sense from a gameplay point of view to keep the Taken around for people who haven't done the raid yet, it does at times get a bit overwhelming, particularly when you're just trying to do a patrol mission and every 10 minutes the area's being corrupted, and you got to fight a Taken Ultra when you're just trying to farm patrols. Not only is the presence of the Taken very annoying, but literally every Taken enemy has a distinct and very obnoxious attack that makes them very frustrating and unrewarding to fight. I could literally go down the list of every Taken enemy and list a mechanic about them that I hate, as it seems that every Taken enemy has a similar mechanic to the enemy that it's taken, yet they have an additional feature that makes them far worse to fight. Let's start at the bottom, with the Taken Thralls. Regular Thralls just have a straight up melee attack, which is arc charge, nothing special, very linear enemy. But then the Taken Thralls, they too only have a melee attack except it's solar charge this time, but they have this really obnoxious twitching mechanic that makes them like teleport. It's like they're almost lagging as such. This is particularly obnoxious during the Oryx fight, when you're waiting outside the shadow of Oryx bubble trying to prevent the Thralls from going inside. The Thralls will twitch around you, teleport past you, and go in the bubble, when you really couldn't even do much about it. Moving on to the next tier of enemy, we've got the Goblins and Hobgoblins. Now the Goblin enemy, like the straight up Vex Goblin enemy, was pretty linear, nothing special about him, just had a straight up attack, just shot you. Whereas the Taken Goblins have the same attack, but now also have a shielding effect, which means they can now shield one of their fellow enemies, despite how strong or weak they are. I've seen a Taken Goblin either shield a Thrall, or shield an Ultra. I think it's extraordinarily unfair for a low level enemy like a Goblin to shield an Ultra, making them completely immune to all attack. I heard one of my clanmates mention that if an Ultra is being shielded by a low level Goblin, that by shooting the Ultra with the overshield, it should damage the Goblin that's defending it. An interesting mechanic, but I think would be a lot more fair, given the magnitude of the enemy it's shielding. And for the Hobgoblins, they're always a threat in year 1, particularly with their very strong line rifle attack. The only other feature they had was the shielding effect. After they took some damage, they go into a fireball shield, which would damage you if you got close enough, but for the most part was just to prevent them from taking further damage. Now the Taken Hobgoblins don't have the same shielding effect, except they have the retaliation strike attack, which means that indefinitely they'll shoot a 3-beam attack that relentlessly tracks you. Much stronger than any other attack. I can't even think of another attack that tracks you as hard as those. You could shade step around a corner and it'll still bend nearly at right angles and hit you. You can't avoid it, and it's very frustrating to fight. Okay, keep moving on. The Taken Vandals. Now for Fallen Vandals, they already had a strong attack in year 1 with their strong rifles, their Queen Wrecker's bow rifles, but now the Taken Vandals have the same feature, except they also have a defender bubble, which they can spam much more often than a Titan can. They can spam them like literally every 10 seconds if they want. Not to mention when they're inside that bubble, they can regenerate their health. Also, just like the Titan, they can defend a lot of enemies around them, protecting them from all incoming damage, unless you want to get in their face with a melee attack or a grenade. Again, an obnoxious mechanic, it's not very fun to fight. More powerful than a year 1 Hobgoblin shield because it defends a whole group of enemies at the same time. Oh, that's right, I forgot about the Scions. Don't get me started on these Scions. Year 1 Scions are already obnoxious. They're very small, very nimble, hard to hit as it is. Now you go ahead and make them multiply indefinitely. I never understand this mechanic. It seems like you have to use Zalo, Super Soul, or a Vortex Grenade these days just to manage the number of enemies they multiply into. You can half weaken a Scion that's moving quickly left and right, and then they'll just multiply into another one with full health. Crazy. Not fun. Okay, moving on to the high tier enemies, and oh man, these guys are something else. Taken Captains, ugh. Taken Captains. Not only do the Taken Captains have the same mechanic as the original Fallen Captains, that being either aggressively rushing you if they know you're weak, or defending behind cover if they're getting weak, they now also have this really frustrating, blinding orb that they indefinitely spam at you, and the bosses make this even worse, particularly the Kexus boss in the Prison of Elders. They just indefinitely spam this blinding orb at you, which greatly reduces your vision, reduces your movement, and not to mention deals a fair amount of damage. I don't know about you, but being constantly spammed by smoke grenades doesn't seem very fun to me right now. Taken Knights. Regular Boomer Knights and Melee Knights were very linear as well. They had just straight up attacks. Either they'd have to go into your face to hit you, or the Boomers have to like lob a shot from a distance, or either go up and punch you as well. Except now for the Taken Knights, they can shoot fire out of their mouth for some reason, and lay it on the ground for a few seconds to make you burn if you stand in it. And of course I can't forget about the Taken Centurions. Oh man. These guys are something else. This week's Nightfall, the Archon Priest with the Taken version, we literally spend minutes upon minutes just shooting their Axiom darts out of the sky, which they can seem to spam every 3 seconds or so. They don't have any cooldown on that attack. Not to mention they also have a teleport feature like the Captains did in year 1, which means they can bounce left and right, fire an Axiom dart, bounce left and right. While I'm on the topic of the Nightfall, this final fight just seems to aggravate all of these features at once. You're fighting every enemy who's sniping you from either a distance, running up to you in point blank, firing axiom darts, throwing blindy orbs. It's just everything that I hate about the Taken hitting you at once. There are other enemies I've forgotten to mention, but they weren't present in the Nightfall, so I sort of skipped over them. But they are also very obnoxious. Firstly, the Taken Acolytes. These guys are just like regular Acolytes, but now they can spawn an Acolyte Eye, which is essentially a turret that can shoot you from a fair distance, deal a lot of damage. So much damage that they become a serious threat, whereas regular Acolytes weren't really considered much of a threat. One of the more annoying things about the Acolyte Eye is that for shooting it you don't get any super energy. It's like it doesn't consider the Acolyte Eye component as part of the enemy, so you don't get any super energy for killing it. Again, there's no limitation on how many of these they can spawn, obviously only one at a time, but still quite a serious threat, and also quite obnoxious at the ranges they can hit you from. Also the Taken Wizards. These guys are just like regular wizards with a fire attack now, but they can also summon Shadow Thrall. Shadow Thralls at least behave like the regular Year 1 Thralls. Not really the biggest threat, but again not very fun to fight. And finally, probably the worst of them all is the Taken Phalanxes. It's almost like Bungie knew how annoying they were to fight in Year 1, so they gave their annoying mechanic a feature, by shooting a pushback field from their shield, not even having to lunge you anymore. A number of times I've been ragdolled into a wall and killed for no reason to the environment, simply because the game has a wonky physics engine, as well as these guys being an obnoxious enemy to fight. Again, all these features just create a really annoying enemy, really annoying mechanics. I don't know what Bungie's plans are to proceed with the following Destiny 2 game, or even for the rest of this year in regards to Destiny, the original game, but I surely hope that the Taken have a very limited future, because I know that I'm not alone in hating the Taken. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like if you liked and sub if you're new. Catch ya.
The Fallen found the prison of elders, but then the Taken found the Fallen. Too bad for them. The Archon priest was better off in the prison.